Dr. Pepper has officially become the second most popular soft drink in America, dethroning Pepsi. But little is known about the soda's origins. From its humble beginnings in Waco, Texas as the side project of a local pharmacist, Charles Alderton, Dr. Pepper was an instant hit right from the start. But it wouldn't really gain traction until its debut at the St. Louis World's Fair Exposition in 1904. From there, it used its medical branding to stand out from the competition, though this wasn't the only thing that helped it stand apart from the rest. Because, unlike Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, Dr. Pepper isn't a cola, leading to them declaring themselves the most misunderstood soft drink. This is the story of Dr. Pepper, and this is Learn Something New. The second most popular soft drink in America was actually the earliest of the top three to be created. Charles Alderton, who was originally born in Brooklyn, New York, would study at Framlingham College in England before diving into the world of 1800s medicine at the University of Texas. Once he graduated, he became a pharmacist at the Morrison's Old Corner drugstore, eager to help the people of Waco, Texas. Now, once he began working in the day-to-day operations of this drugstore, he noticed the crowds coming in for the store's soda fountain. These soda fountains were becoming a staple in pharmacies across the nation just before the turn of the century, though they had been around since the 1810s. Soda fountains tended to pair really well with the skills and knowledge the pharmacist had. The earliest soda fountains would use the pharmacist's expertise in things like chemistry and understanding of how chemical reactions worked to make syrup concentrates that were then combined with carbon dioxide, water, and occasionally ice cream. The soda fountains would become a way to hedge the pharmacist's business. By selling the high-profit drinks, they were making the drugstores not just a place to come for medicine when you're sick, but also a social destination for when you're healthy. Early on, however, many pharmacies did lean into the medical branding of their sodas, keeping it in line with the rest of their store. The pharmacist, with access to various chemical ingredients, would often experiment with their soda syrups, like Dr. Pemberton creating Coca-Cola with cocaine, or when 7-Up was originally created with lithium citrate, acting as a mood stabilizer, pitching the drink as essentially an antidepressant. Not all of these were as effective and proven, however, most notable of which was many root beers of the past containing sassafras. This, along with the sarsaparilla version, were believed to work as a cure-all for many STDs someone might have at the time, though in reality, it didn't actually do anything to aid their ailments. Charles Alderton was likely no different than many of these other pharmacists, spending most of his spare time experimenting with the creation of new formulas of soda syrup. He noticed that a lot of the customers that were normally coming into the drugstore for soda were beginning to get fed up with the regular flavors typically served, things like sarsaparilla, lemon, and vanilla. Seeing sales begin to die off, Alderton threw himself into his hobby with a renewed effort and vigor, keeping a journal of various attempts, but eventually settling on a 23-ingredient mix, the taste of which resembled the smell customers enjoyed as they sat at the counter by the soda fountain. It would be first introduced to Morrison's Old Corner drugstore on December 1st, 1885, 1 year before Dr. Pemberton would first introduce the world to Coca-Cola, and around 8 years before Pepsi first hit the pharmacy scene as Brad's drink. Similarly to Pepsi adopting its current name after it was first sold, Dr. Pepper was originally just ordered as a Waco, named after Waco, Texas, the city where Alderton lived and worked. After introducing the mix to the soda lineup, Alderton gave the rights and recipe over to the drugstore owner, Wade Morrison, who was impressed with the immediate success of the drink. They weren't just having the regular customers come in anymore. There were people from all across town hoping to try the new drink. But from 1885 to 1891, the people could only get a Waco by coming into the drugstore to have the syrup mixed and served to them at the counter. Morrison felt like there was a lot of potential for the drink to be shipped out to the rest of the state, or even the rest of the country. But first, he would need to come up with a name for it, a brand that was more original than just the name of the city it was created in. The actual story of how Dr. Pepper got its name has been lost to history, but there are a few prevailing theories. The simplest and most straightforward is that some products, whether actually medically aligned or not, were often given names with doctor in them at the time to get people to think that they were healthy or otherwise beneficial to consume. However, some believe Dr. Pepper to be the rare exception to this practice. being named instead after a real doctor, Dr. Charles T. Pepper, a doctor from Virginia that granted Morrison permission to marry his daughter, though Morrison would never actually go through with the marriage, but the name stuck. Finally, it's been theorized that Dr. Pepper actually stems from Dr. William Alexander Reed Pepper, a doctor that lived really close to Morrison. Regardless of how it originated, the name stuck, though they would drop the period after Doctor in the 1950s during a logo redesign. Now with the Dr. Pepper name, Morrison partnered with Robert Lazenby, someone who worked solely as a beverage chemist and was impressed with the flavor of the soda. Together, they opened up a bottling firm in 1891, originally called the Artisan Manufacturing and Bottling Company, which would later become the Dr. Pepper Company, moving from Waco to Dallas in 1923. Though Morrison's dreams for the soda's widespread reach would be realized in 1904, when Lazenby brought crates of bottles up to St. Louis, Missouri, where the World's Fair Exposition was taking place. As things like hamburgers and ice cream and cones were being introduced to the masses for the first time in history, Dr. Pepper was making its official national debut, becoming a favorite of crowds moving throughout the fairgrounds. After expanding into nationwide distribution, they began to lean into the Doctor branding, with Old Doc, Dr. Pepper's trademark character, giving the appearance of a doctor you would find working out in rural areas. This image of being associated with the medical profession, as well as research that was published in the 1920s and 30s that said the average person experiences dips in energy at 10:30 a.m., 2:30 p.m., and 4:30 p.m., allowed the brand to put out their famous advertising slogan, "Drink a bite to eat at 10, 2, and 4, insinuating that the drink would be a great alternative to snacking throughout the day, while still helping you keep your energy up whenever it dipped. This was extremely effective. So effective, in fact, that it's believed that after petitioning Congress during World War II to reclassify Dr. Pepper as food to help them get around the sugar rations at the time, they were actually allotted less stringency with the sugar used in the drink, being seen as necessary for the country's overall success. In the 1960s, the battle with Coca-Cola and Pepsi would begin to escalate, with both companies signing exclusivity offers with bottlers, saying that they weren't allowed to bottle any other cola products, leading to the FDA officially ruling that Dr. Pepper is not a cola soda, as it doesn't have any flavorings derived from the cola nut, saying instead that it's a pepper soda, not because of any flavorings, but named after the soda itself. This allowed Dr. Pepper to enter into contracts with the bottlers regardless if they were already bottling for Coca-Cola or Pepsi. They were also able to turn this into another marketing stunt, claiming that Dr. Pepper was the most misunderstood soft drink. But they were also fiercely territorial with their trademark. When Coca-Cola tried to introduce a direct competitor to Dr. Pepper in 1972 called Peppo, Dr. Pepper was quick to sue them for trademark infringement, forcing Coca-Cola to quickly pivot this new drink to the name it's known by today, Mr. Pibb. Recently, Dr. Pepper has surpassed Pepsi to become the United States' second best-selling soda, in part because they've seen an increase in market share, and partly because Pepsi has seen a reduction in their market share. Yet both still pale in comparison to the Coca-Cola juggernaut, having well over double their market share. However, from its early beginnings as a Waco soda, the drink has had an extraordinary rise over the past 139 years. Thank you for watching Learn Something New. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Or if you want, you can check out the channel's Patreon, linked below in the description. A very special thanks to the channel's patrons, but as always, thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.